All right, we got a good one this weekend. Miami at SMU, and Carson Beck, he knows there's a challenge in front of him. Playing on the road, it's homecoming for SMU. They'll be rowdy, and that Mustangs defense, a highly disruptive unit, effective against the run, ability to create turnovers. They can put the pressure on. Here's Beck on the task at hand.
You look at their D-line and what they're able to do and, creating havoc in the run game and just honestly being able to be physical and kind of push people around is one of their strong suits. So, and again, that's, I feel like what we do well. So, that's going to kind of be the key of the game is, who's able to kind of win that battle, right? And again, like I said, they're a really talented defense and they do a really good job. So again, they're going to pose a challenge for us, but just looking forward to having that opportunity to go out and execute and continue to have good practices and build them as we lead up to Saturday.
All right, the Hurricanes are fresh off dominating Stanford. No doubt still trying to have a short-term memory of the Louisville loss. SMU looking to upset Miami. For more, we welcome in our college football insiders, Chip Patterson and Richard Johnson. We know Carson Beck had a tough outing against Louisville, those 4 interceptions. No doubt lingered in his mind maybe a little bit, but can he take care of the football against SMU on the road this weekend? Chip, you go first.
Yeah, I think he can. It is important for Carson Beck not to let these pile up because if you remember last season when he was at Georgia, Georgia had some injuries along the offensive line. Team started really dialing up pressure on Beck, and Beck started having turnovers hit in a hurry. And that's why it is so important that you aren't stacking bad performances. That's why it was so important that Miami was able to turn it on and turn it up when it comes to taking a game that was close at halftime last week and turn it into a blowout victory. So I'll say yes, Trisha. I think Carson Beck can continue to make sure that that poor performance against Louisville doesn't end up lingering any longer.
I was at that Miami game when they lost to Louisville at home on a Friday night a couple weeks ago. And the most interesting thing to me about that game was this was a Miami team that was frankly supposed to be able to sustain mistakes. Now, 4 interceptions is a whole lot of mistakes. But with a defense that's as stout as they are and an offense that theoretically can beat you in multiple ways, you thought that, okay, even though they're having these mistakes, they'd be able to overcome and they'd be able to push through and win a game like that where they're not on their best. They proved that they weren't able to do that against Louisville. Louisville had a better plan. And then they come back, and now their margin for error is nil, really, in the ACC, in my opinion. I also think SMU is in that same way. Both of these teams need these wins, Miami especially, to stay in the thick of both the ACC race and the college football playoff race. We didn't see a team like Virginia, for instance, coming preseason to make things pretty thorny as far as the ACC championship race goes.
All right, here's the unique thing about this game for Miami. It is their first road game outside of Florida. How are they going to handle that, Chip?
I think they're going to handle it because they're good at the lines of scrimmage, right? I mean, so your rhythm is off. So your timing is off. Maybe your concentration ain't so sharp. Well, I'll tell you what. You don't need much concentration for being bigger and stronger in the trenches. And that's where Mario Cristobal, when he's been constructing this roster over these first couple of years with his tenure with Miami, he has known that if he can build this team up to just mash people at the lines of scrimmage, then it doesn't matter whether you're playing at home where it's warm or if you're playing on the road where it's cold. If you can win those battles in the trenches, you can play winning football. So while they are leaving the Sunshine State and heading to, that northern destination that is Dallas, I do think that they are going to be ready because line play travels, and that's what this team is built on.
Exactly what Chip said. Line play travels. They've built a physical brand of football that's important. Again, they are trying to build this Miami team to be, in my opinion, boring. I say that in a complimentary fashion. I say this Miami team is built to control games from the beginning until the end. It's not these up and down fluctuations that they had last year where there's a whole lot of volatility in the game. You're dealing with comebacks. You're having to come back themselves. This Miami team is built to control games. Let's see if they can get back on track like they did last week against Stanford, against SMU.
All right, you guys both have the same impact player for this game to watch, and that would be Malachi Toney. What a stellar freshman campaign for this young man this year. Chip, how much of a challenge will this be for SMU?
I mean, he's a challenge for SMU. He was a challenge for Notre Dame. He's a challenge for anybody that has to go up against Miami because he has literally track speed. He has that unguardable nature where if you try to put Malachi Toney in short space, he is going to be able to get a step on you very quickly. The thing that is so impressive to me has been the way that this coaching staff talks about how he handles his business and the chemistry he's been able to develop with Carson Beck. I mean, yes, he's the team leader in receptions and receiving yards, but I also think about, how many targets this guy is getting per game. It is so obvious that they draw some stuff up for him, but also sometimes when everything breaks down, number 10 is who you're looking for. And honestly, if you're Carson Beck and you're playing on the road, don't take all those chances down the field. Just give it to Tan.
Yeah, Chip, the most fascinating thing about Malachi Toney is the fact that they're able to get him the ball in so many different ways. It's like they have an entire designed screen game that navigates around Malachi Toney, and that makes sense when you consider Shannon Dawson, the offensive coordinator there's Air Raid Roots. But obviously, he can go across the middle as well, and he can go deep. You can kind of do the screw it, he's down there somewhere, and throw the ball down there. He returns punts as well, so it's a situation where just get the ball in his hands and let him go. Just as a freshman wide receiver, he has been such a huge key for Miami this season. I think he's frankly able to bail them out in some spots where games are a little tight, and he's just able to make a play with the ball in his hands.
All right, it's not just Toney that will be a challenge for the Mustangs. They've got their work cut out for them with this Miami defense. They'll have to overcome one of the top rushing defenses in the country. Will they be able to perform sufficiently against the Hurricanes, Chip?
I think so. I think Miami is going to be able to really turn up the pressure on Kevin Jennings. And number one, that's because you've got Ruben Bain coming off the edge. You've got all of the ability that this defensive line has to apply pressure on you. But the other piece here that I can't get out of my head, and RJ, I don't know if you agree with me, but I think Kevin Jennings is a real gutsy warrior for fighting through this ankle injury. But buddy, as somebody who has to make a prediction here, Kevin Jennings with an ankle injury is very limited in terms of what he's going to be able to do to get away from that pressure. Fully healthy Kevin Jennings, yes, I think there is an ability to be neutralize some of that by getting him on the move. But man, I don't love this. It's again great that he's been gutting it out. He's a real hero for that SMU football team, but if I'm going to call a spade, I'm going to say Kevin Jennings might be a sitting duck against that Miami pass rush.
Yeah, and I mean, it's showing up, Chip. He just has not scrambled as many times, not as many designed runs as he had last year. As you said, they are penning him into the pocket. Teams are making him be a big boy, full tool passer, and some of that is obviously due to the limited mobility. That's just a bad recipe against Akeem Messidor and Ruben Bain and what Miami has up front on their defensive line. I just do not like that matchup. Don't like that matchup against many offensive lines, but especially not against SMU in this game.
All right, let's talk about Carson Beck's offensive line. They've been a key reason for their success this season. So will the Mustangs be able to pressure Beck effectively come Saturday? There's a lot of words there. Will they be able to pressure Beck effectively come Saturday, Chip?
I think this comes down to schedule for me, and I don't mean the schedule of games you play. I mean staying on schedule. I mean being able to make sure that you avoid a third and long scenario, because one of the things that Miami can do when they have great balance is ability to be effective enough in both the run and the pass that they keep a defense from really being able to apply that extra pressure, try to turn up the heat on Carson Beck and force him into some of those mistakes. So in a third and long scenario, yes, SMU does have some athletes. They've got some havoc creators, but I'm also concerned about their ability against this Miami offensive line to avoid just getting stuck in the third and manageable when you're not able to make those same kind of calculations, especially with the game breaker like Malachi Toney. So ultimately, I think my answer is in the right scenarios, yes, they can pressure Carson Beck. The key will be getting into those third and long situations.
They better be able to pressure Carson Beck, because I am very worried about what SMU has on the back end. We've talked a lot about Malachi Toney in this segment, deservedly so, but CJ Daniels going to have some joy too in this game. I watched Clemson a couple weeks ago with a backup quarterback move the ball through the air against SMU. So SMU's passing defense is a concern. They are able to manage that, I think, in a lot of their games this season because that pass rush is really good. They're able to wreak havoc up front, get to quarterbacks, speed quarterbacks up, and kind of save their back end, protect protect their back end with what they're good at on the pass rush in the front end of their defense. But if they don't get home in this game, it's going to be a long day.
All right, no surprise, you both have the same SMU impact player for this weekend, Chip. You already mentioned him once, the quarterback, Kevin Jennings. What do you expect from him against a formidable defense in the Hurricanes?
Well, it's about the definition of impact, right? I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can impact the outcome of a game. And Kevin Jennings, just to me, is the X factor. I mean, if he rises up, if he has a great game, SMU's got a chance to be able to hand an upset victory that would throw the ACC title race into yet another blender. On the other hand, if Kevin Jennings cannot be effective and a real difference maker, I think SMU's offense is not going to be able to come up with the scores they need to apply the pressure. We have seen Kevin Jennings be really good when his number has been called, but that's why I think he's the biggest impact player, because he's the X factor in how this game turns out for SMU's offense.
Yeah, and one of my biggest things here is about game script, right? If this game gets away from SMU and SMU is forced to chase, you combine the fact that Kevin Jennings has relatively limited mobility with the fact that he's sitting in the pocket, with the fact that that Miami pass rush may just be able to pin its ears back and come all guns blazing at Kevin Jennings. I think if this game script starts to get out of hand for SMU and they get behind and they've got to chase, I think it could be a very long day for the Ponies.
All right, so much information there, and I think, Richard, I know what your prediction is based on the last thing you said, but I'm going to ask you guys, who are you taking in this matchup on Saturday? Chip, you go first.
I got Miami 31-17. I just think it's going to be very difficult for SMU to be able to hold up against the playmakers. I'm not afraid of the road trip. I think Mario Cristobal's team is built the right way.
I am taking Miami big in this game, 41-24. I think the Canes roll.